Everyone, we would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe people. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Mel?
Thank you, Stephanie, college assistant for Gzowski College. Welcome to Enwayaang, everyone. I'm going to introduce our guests in just a second, but first, I just wanted to say that this is our last Enwayaang Way We Speak Together talk of the academic year, which I know it's not year end for many of us, but we're heading into the last week of classes next week after the Easter weekend. And so we will end these talks as students finish their classes, but not because we haven't enjoyed them. And we hope to come back and do these again next year because they've been a really great way to connect community, students, staff, faculty. We've had slightly different people at every week, but also some returners every week. So first, I want to really thank our audiences. We've also been recording these and putting them on the Gzowski College website. And so we also get a lot more views there, but it's been a really great experiment. We have never done this before. It was one of the little gifts of COVID. So I really want to extend my thanks. And while I am doing that, I would like to specifically thank Stephanie Curtin, who is the Gzowski College assistant, who has been at every one, helping keep us organized in the background, connecting with all of you, the guests, connecting with the attendees and the guests actually to keep us shipshape. So thank you so much, Stephanie. You've been invaluable to this process. I also want to thank Kat Gatley, who is our student staff member extraordinaire, who's also on screen with us today. Kat has been at every one. She's done introductions, she's done recording, she edits the film and puts it on our website. So Kat, we couldn't do it without you either. And I really appreciate the team in Gzowski College that does these. Enwayaang means the way we speak together. We take that quite literally in Gzowski College, and our Enwayaang building has really kept that collaborative dialogue as part of our, I would say, our key identity. So that's why we called this series Speaking Together. And that is what we are going to do today. So I'm going to introduce our guests before we get started. Oh, no, maybe I'm not. I'm actually going to turn to Stephanie to do that because I cannot minimize my Zoom when I'm recording the meeting. So in classic Zoom world, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie to introduce James and Arzu to our guests, and then I'll say another word. So over to you, Stephanie. Sorry.
No problem. I'm just getting that open here myself. So just
I know both Arzu and James, and I could riff off of this, but I don't want to misrepresent either of you. So we're going to do this official and have Gzowski have Steph introduce you both for Gzowski.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, actually. Today we have James Cullingham, who is an award-winning documentary filmmaker, historian, and journalist with Tamarack Productions based in Nogajigwanong, Peterborough. His documentaries concerning social justice, history, and popular culture have been screened around the world. Cullingham was an executive producer with CBC Radio and has published by Canada's leading newspapers and magazines. His 2018 documentary film, Jim Galloway, A Journey in Jazz, concerns the saxophonist and impresario Galloway, who co-created the Toronto Jazz Festival. Cullingham is now producing a documentary entitled The Cost of Freedom, Refugee Journalists in Canada. We also have Arzu Yildiz, I hope I'm saying that right, who graduated from Istanbul Bilgi University TV journalism department. She launched her career as a journalist working for TV channels, and she worked as a court reporter for several years. Then she moved to join several news web portals, working both as an editor and senior reporter. I'm sorry, my screen just jumped on me here. Turkish journalist Faith Yagmar and her and Arzu authored a book investigating Turkey's one of the most politically explosive corruption scandals, which broke out on December 17, 2013. Her reports drew ire from the government circles, prompting authorities to pursue legal cases against her. She faced multiple investigations and legal charges of publishing classified state information, unveiling state secrets that would harm national security, the arms shipment by the intelligence agency to Syria, and insulting Mr. Erdogan. Police raided her apartment immediately after the failed coup attempt. There is an arrest warrant against her for her investigative reports. She has 4 books published. She started to work as a journalist in New Canadian Media in January 2021, and she takes part in James Cullingham's documentary project, The Cost of Freedom, and Refugee Journalists in Canada. Thank you for joining us today. We're so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you, Steph, for that. I'm going to turn this over to Arzu. I just wanted to add that James is an honorary fellow of Gzowski. I think Arzu's daughter is going to become an honorary fellow of Gzowski because she came and visited us last year. Oh, James has his mug. Nice. Arzu, and you and your daughter were here last year. And I, interestingly, because we were talking about the pandemic, we met in person in Gzowski College in Enwayaang just over a year ago when James with the college brought all of the subjects of this new film to the college and started some of the filming process at an event in our building. So it's really great to have you both back here and talking about where we are with this project and a little bit more about your experience as a journalist in exile. So thank you for that. Arzu, I'm going to turn this over to you to give a little explanation of maybe your experience and your role in this film. I think we'll just start there, and then I'll turn it over to James to talk a bit more about the film, and then we'll have a bit more of a dialogue. So Arzu, you are up.
Okay, where I should start, I have no idea, but maybe about filming. James felt talking about it because we just filming, you know.
Yeah.
We are waiting like you. What comes up, but I trust James because he's a professional, you know, about this issue. I feel lucky to meet with him, not just about the filming, you know, to make us the motivation and make us the courage and good friendship. Sometimes he sends us the songs and the music, some poet like that. She almost read my biography. Maybe I can talk about my experience in Canada. It's better what you prefer, you know?
Yeah, why don't you, that would be great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how maybe even just how the last 2 years has been for you, Arzu? And I think it would be great to know just how and when you met James, so how you got started in this documentary. So if you can give us, it would be great to hear a little bit about your last 2 years in Canada maybe, and how you got connected and involved with this project.
Honestly, I came to Canada 24 November 2016. After a couple of months later, Canadian Association Journalism organization wants to invite me at the conference in Ottawa. I went there as a speaker. James also a moderator in that conference. How we met with him, and then after that we are continue to keep in touch each other. And then one day James told me about his project. You know, I say it's a good idea, not to telling our story. You know, the journalists who live in all around the world and non-democratic country, they all have the trouble and the problem with the system, government, and justice. It's maybe good to show the world how our life changed. Because, you know, I have no benefit from anywhere. I just want to make my country, the democratic country, as Canada, Norway, something like that. And I never make money from this job. I always lost what I have, but I always want to honor, you know, the beautiful story, because the life is rude, you know. If you choose the difficult one, you can be ready what will go next. You understand? And when I came here, the first time was very difficult, you know, not just about leaving children behind or the leaving country. I didn't know anything about this country and then how I can survive. And first of all, I need a bed, to sleep. And then I am looking for the rental house. It was very difficult for the newcomers. They want a lot of paperwork and then also guarantor, but I didn't know anyone, right? And then they want credit history. A couple of problems. Also, Canada has some kind of problem for the refugee people because I tested for the first time. Government say you can go to English class, something like that. How? First of all, I need enough money to survive. And I need free time to going to English class to learning something. And then people, the meaning of refugee, easy to say, but it is very difficult if you test it. I cannot compare nothing to do to being a refugee. And then I found a house with the help of the Turkish family, and then I found a job. I went there, and my little English also. I just told them, I need a job. What kind of job? It is not, don't matter for me, but I honestly need it. And then they watching me. I worked at a rental chair company, and for the first time, I am just a woman, that department. They rent a chair, some of the organization, and then it come back, we clean it and cover it again. But that was very good experience for me. I had a lot of friends from there and then learning this a little bit about the system. But at the same time, I had no chance to going to English class to learn in English. And couple of, maybe 8 months later, I started to work as a pizza driver. That story make my life, beautiful in here, because every people came from the different countries, some of them the immigrants, families, and the second generation, first generation. And they helped me too much because they understand what kind of situation I am in. And then I learned about the system, also address where I live, because before I had no idea where I'm living, and I didn't know the street names, anything. But it helps me too much. At the same time, I try to keep myself very strong. And then I started writing a book, and then my escape story also, it's almost translated in English. I'm waiting on what the publisher say, submission, And we started the documentary with James. Also, sometimes I made a news for the Turkey because I never forget, right? Now my half part belongs there. It's not easy to be free if you're a lot of friends still in a prison. It's heartbreaking, Sometimes, for example, when I'm walking in the forest, I feel they watching me, and it's made me very sad. Why I am here? I'm also free, but they are not. But after that, I realized I cannot survive like that, no, right? This is my prefer, this is their prefer. Maybe James in the documentary, he will tell and show how I live in here.
I do have one question, Arzu, that
okay.
I was thinking about as you were talking, and I will turn it over to James, but I wondered, I think I know what you will say, but are there, I'm sure this has been difficult to come here and to leave Turkey. And I'm sure that there are many, many things about the last 8 to 10 years of your life that have been incredibly difficult. But would you do it the same way? Like, would you still speak your truth, knowing the journey that you would? I knew you would say that, but I just thought there must be days when you think, oh, this could have been easier, but you have no regrets about that, right?
Yeah. And the other things, whole my life, like a journalist, They never complain about my news as a liar. They try to punish me, recover the state secrets, you know. They confirm I wrote the truth. And then now I try to continue to my job, writing, because the book is also a newspaper. It belongs to you, you know. This is of your newspaper. You are the manager, editor, and the reporter also. You can continue to your life like that. And I also now working with the writers in exile, 10 or 11 journalists, all of them came different countries. We are starting to writing a book together about our experience. For example, I didn't write my life story and my experience, because James also make a documentary about it. I also wrote a book, but I just want to discuss what I saw when I came to Canada in refugee camp. What is the meaning of border, ID, homeland, you know, identity, how make a sense? Because, you know, when my life is changed, when I go into refugee camp and meet a lot of people, I ask myself, don't speak. Look at these people. Your problem is not a problem, you know. Yeah, Turkey is the member of the NATO.
Yeah, we'll come back to that, Rosemary. I'm going to turn it over to James maybe to explain the documentary project and his interest in this topic. And thank you, Arzu. I think it's
maybe last thing I can add.
Yeah.
You know, life is short. I didn't care where I live. You know what can, how many, which condition I am in, but what they did to us, you know, they stole our past and memories.
Yes, yes, I hear that. And I think that's what makes this all the more powerful, is that your commitment is so strong and unwavering. It's quite inspiring to listen to you talk about that. James, do you want to speak a little bit about this?
Well, inspiring is a good word. Certainly when I met Arzu, and at about the same time, I met Luis Nahara from Mexico. And that was in late 2016, late 2017, early 2018. It was a great honor to be able to help them appear at the Canadian Association of Journalists meeting. And the relationship professionally and as friends has developed since then. So it's been a wonderful opportunity and an inspiring opportunity to learn more about Arzu, about Luis, and about their colleague, and the third principal character in the film, Abdurrahman Matar, who's from Syria. So the film, The Cost of Freedom, Refugee Journalists in Canada, looks at three countries, and Arzu is absolutely right. I mean, this is a global crisis, but you can't do every country, and you can't do every writer in exile and every refugee journalist. So in terms of the conception of the film, and certainly Arzu and Luis and Abdurrahman, their participation and their patience, because we're trying to make this film during COVID. Yesterday, I was planning on filming with Luis in Toronto, and next Tuesday with Arzu in Toronto. And as of today, we would now be violating the appropriate protocol for filming in COVID situations. So we have to wait a little longer. And I thank Arzu and the others for their patience. I have been a journalist since I was in my 20s. I'm well into my 60s now. And I traveled widely and I met many people, but I am just so impressed, and I'm educated so thoroughly by Arzu and Luis and Abdurrahman. I'm trying to do justice to their stories. I don't think the film will, there are a lot of films about the attack on press freedom in various places, including Syria, Mexico, and Turkey. But there's Russia, there's the Philippines. There was a wonderful film that some of you may have seen at Reframe called We Hold the Line, about very, very brave journalists in the Philippines. So this is an international global story, and looking at these stories from those three countries, I think will give viewers a window into it. And I think what makes the film perhaps unique is that Arzu and the others are determined, as you said, Melanie, to continue to speak truth to power and tell their stories. Arzu is now joined, fortunately, by her two wonderful daughters, Emina and Fatma, and it's been a great pleasure to get to know them a little bit. And when I met her the first time in Toronto, outside of Ottawa, Arzu was working in a pizza parlor. And when she wasn't working in the pizza parlor, she was trying to raise her then. Emina would have been about 6 or 7 when she came to Canada, Arzu, I think. Was that right? She's 9 or 10 now. So somewhere.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
she came here, she's 9 years old.
Sure.
She came after than 2 years later, you know. And
And
now she's 11.
a wonderful young person, terrific skateboarder, which people will see in the film. So whether it's working at the chair rental company, or the pizza parlor, or now delivering food for Uber Eats, obviously Arzu is a woman who wants to make her own way in the world, and those are her options at the moment. At the same time, she's writing books, she's publishing with New Canadian Media. I mean, the first conversation that we had, I think you remember, Arzu, it was in the coffee shop at the Toronto Reference Library when I was inviting you to come to the Canadian Association of Journalists meeting. You didn't speak English at all, and unfortunately, sadly, I speak no Turkish. So we had to speak with a translator. Your English, I mean, that's only 3 years ago, and your English is remarkable. So just your courage is inspiring. And as a journalist who's worked independently and worked for the CBC, written frequently for the Globe and Mail, and contributed documentaries to BBC and TVO, and work with the National Film Board, I'm just spoiled and privileged. I believe I've done good work, and I try to deal with difficult social justice issues often. But this is a film that is very, very dear to my heart, very, very important. And the last couple of films I've made, just speaking personally as a storyteller, I'm very proud of them. But one was a film about a great composer and blues musician. The other is about a jazz musician. And I mean, I think they're lovely films, and that John Fahey and Jim Galloway are worthy of films. But now I'm back to a political subject. And not only is it political, it's about the profession that I've dedicated my life to, journalism. And so it's very humbling and inspiring, to get back to that word, to work with these folks. We are making the film for a very, very modest budget. People like Melanie and Rosemary, who's on this call, in their own ways have helped see that we keep moving forward. And many people, and I'll finish with this, you know, we have raised enough money to at least make the film, but we haven't received it from major Canadian institutions. We've received it, almost all of it, from individuals and from smaller organizations like the New Canadian Centre of Peterborough, and others locally here in Peterborough. who believe in press freedom and believe in social justice. So that too is inspiring in that, you know, the people are making it possible to make this film. And, you know, we want to live up to their expectations as well. And if you know anybody who wants to contribute to the film, get in touch.
Yeah, maybe we'll put a link in the chat later for how to do that. Thanks, James. I think this sounds so obvious to say, and yet I think it still bears repeating, is that we're talking here about people who wrote and came under extreme danger in their home countries from writing what they saw. And I know that we know that journalism can be an act of a political act and a revolutionary act, but it still bears repeating that this is not, I mean, this is writing your truth and coming under attack for that, and threat, and physical threat, to the point that you are dealing here with being exiled. And I think one of the things that came up the last time I heard you talk about this with the Massey College talk, it was Luis, I think, saying, you know, this is a hard road. And that's why I asked Arzu, I mean, do you have regrets? No, I know she doesn't regret what I know you don't regret your position, but that doesn't mean it's easy. And I think it just, for people to remember, especially here, many of us are writers. We might be writing for classes. In Rosemary's case, she's writing for a newspaper. Dane, you're writing, I'm writing. That is so powerful and can be so dangerous for people. And I know I'm harping on this, but I think this is why I think this film is really important. And now I'm just ranting, but I think it's really important because I don't think people think about that as a political act all the time in this country. And I think what your film is going to do is say, no, like, political acts are not always people, you know, burning things and attacking things and running in riots. This is the act of speaking your truth, and that has a damaging effect for personal lives. I mean, on top of all the people, and Arzu mentioned this, who are in prison and have been, you know, murdered, imprisoned, etc., for the things they're writing. I mean, you're living in exile as a refugee because you put pen to paper. And I know we know this, but it just bears repeating. My rant is over. I am finished. I will.
To me, I just want to say that seemed like a really good point, Mel. Really, you know, here we are able to write here and look at the sacrifices that she's had to make to do that.
And I think we take it for granted in Canada. We take it for granted that we can write something, and we're not going to get we may get a slap on the wrist, we may get a comment section in the newspaper, but are we going to be imprisoned in this country for what we're writing? Are we in exile because of what we write? And I know we know this, but I think you come back to it in a really forceful way when you hear Arzu or Luis or Abdul Rahman speak about this. So thank you. I guess I would say thank you. I am going to ask if there are some questions right now, and if you want to, James, you can start with Rosemary. What did you ask, Rosemary? You asked about the level of democracy in Turkey, right?
Level of democracy? We cannot say that Turkey has the democracy. If I give you an example of which level is, but there is no level, because why? Turkey is just a new country, you know, no long the background. After the Ottoman, they fixed the new country without, don't care the others' right as a Kurdish people or the Armenian, just focus on the Turkish right. And then they, our first rules, talking about how the Turkish people supremacy, you know, and then not the others' right. It starts with a lots of mistake and no equality, no justice, and why we still have lots of problems. And then our system, especially educational system, also teach you how you became a racist. I am not joking, because they, for example, when you go to school, just it's changed 3 years or 5 years ago, but now they discuss bring it back. You on oath as a promise, you know, I will die for the Turkish people. But why, why I am dying for the one nation? You understand what I mean? They started the school like that, and our historical books also tells about the false thing, not the truth. And then they shows Armenian or the Greek people enemy of us, and then the children grow up like these emotions, and they believe their blood is strong than others, and then God create the world for the Turkish, some stupid things like that. And then we have still fighting for there is a war in the Turkey, not name it a war, but it is really war uh, against the Kurdish people. Why? It is just a simple things. Speaking in their own language, they want to just this stuff, and that they want their own right because they burn the same land before the Turkish, because the Turkish people came later. But democracy, justice system doesn't work. It's not about the Erdogan. It started before than him. Now it is continue. But if you know the Turkish language, I'm sure you will find and the shock, surprise that what is their agenda and what they discuss about it. They say now they try to ban the Kurdish party also, and then they try to arrest one of the member of parliament. He is also a very famous human rights activist, because why? He doesn't care who you are. He just care about your right. I am also did same thing. I am a journalist. I always care about objectivity. I am not the supporter of the Nanon group. I don't want to describe any of group also. But when I saw there was a injustice case, I should be rewarded. Be a voice of voiceless, this is the way why we are here but in a Turkey, they never believe you are you cannot be individual independence, because everyone has in the one group, because the people lost how you say the
Self-confidence.
confidence, yes, because what the system make you like that.
Yeah.
But I also believe the individualism, because I grow up very free. My dad also give me lots of freedom, whatever I can, whatever I want. He let me to do that, And we never talking about the religion, political issue in our home. We just focus on we are all the same, and we are all the same right. Now look, almost maybe over than 60% died in a prison because of the torture. And they nagged the people before keep them in a prison. They did a lot of bad things. The guy now they want to arrest to him tells about this story, They just remind them this is not the justice, and this is not the rule of law. Also, what they make a decision about for detention. After July 15, they started to torture the soldiers, and then they put them just with their underwear. They tortured them and post a video on the government agency. When I saw them, I was shocked. And I just wrote, you cannot do that. And this is a crime against the humanity. You cannot torture any of the people, including the soldiers also, And a couple of hours later, they sent me police my house, just to remind them it is the truth.
I think, Rosemary, standing outside of Turkey, and correct me if I'm getting this wrong, Arzu, but for those of us who didn't grow up in Turkey and have not been exposed to the situation, certainly Europe, and I think countries like Canada and the United States as well, had hopes that Erdogan, when he got power, represented a hope for a more secular democracy in Turkey, but those expectations were not met. Erdogan was seen to be briefly as kind of a darling, as perhaps a bridge between the East and the West, and someone from the Islamic world who would be able to speak the West language about democracy. And he played that card very successfully. And he also had space for refugees that the policies of the West and the Middle East were creating. So he played that card too. And then, and it's still, I'm sure it's still unclear, even in the fine mind of Arzu Yildiz, the insanity of July 2016 happened, and nobody to this day really knows what happened. Was it a coup, or was it theater engineered by Erdogan to give him a pretext to imprison his opponents and shut down free speech and journalism? But that's what happened. So certainly until July 2016, Rosemary, there was a widely shared hope in the West that Turkey might be democratizing, might be more so. But since July 2016, that ship sunk, and it's now a very repressive. There are it's horrendous. Is it up to 2,000 people associated with the media who are in prison, Arzu, who didn't manage to get away the way you did? I think that's the figure. I'm working with a filmmaker from Greece, a wonderful man that Arzu introduced me to, Thomas Sideris, who made a film about the situation before the coup and afterwards. And he interviewed Arzu when she was still working as a journalist in Turkey. The camera person on that film is in prison. I mean, what's going on in Turkey is horrendous. And so there's nothing like democracy happening in Turkey. And there are elections, yes, but it is a charade of a one-party state. It is, would you say it's similar to Russia in that sense? There's a pretense of a pretense.
James,
yeah.
It is the same with the Russia. Putin,
yes, I think so.
And Erdogan is this brother. The same situation. Also, my editor-in-chief, Ahmet Altan, also one of my friends, we worked the same newspaper, Mehmet Baransu, both of them in a prison. They realized them, Ahmet Altan 2 times, but after 5 hours later, they make a decision again, they put them prison. Just a playing with the their, feeling and something like that. Ahmet Altan also 72 years old right now. He's very famous novelist. And Mehmet Baransu, he shows top 100 journalists list in all around the world. Because why? Before the July 15 or the big corruption, Taraf newspaper started to publish planning of the coup belongs to army. And then they say, this is the first time, maybe this is the first time for the world, one of the journalists find the coup plan before the soldier made it. He started to publish, We did a lot of big job in that newspaper as a team. Now, a couple of them in a prison, and me and others has to live in exile. For what? To seeking democracy and the justice, equality, not to being an Islamic state. Now, we cannot say that Turkey is the secular country because the they just talking about the religion, you know. And Erdogan also, when he went anywhere to speak, he used the Quran. I don't care what the Quran writing about it. I just care the rule of law. You know, this is the secular country.
Yeah,
But
exactly. And I wondered too, though, if, so I'm thinking again about the idea of being in exile in Canada. If you were in Turkey, you might, would you, I mean, it would be hard to speak the truth because you would fear being imprisoned, right? So do you feel you have some power to speak the truth from here and that it will get heard? Or do you, like, how much hope do you have that the work you can do from Canada can continue to have power? Do you know if that makes sense?
journalism in Canada and Turkey.
Yeah, from you in particular. So for you to be able to write about Turkey
Now I
and
try
educate
to
us.
learn a Canadian news system, but I am still continue to talking about Turkey to join some conference or the writing the something. Yeah, but what can I do? You know, I try to all the way.
Yeah.
As a journalist now, I have a lots of responsibility also in here. You know how the life is difficult and expensive in Canada. I have two daughters. I am a single mom. I have to work and doing a lots of things at the same time. I try the all the way. I try to my best. In Canadian journalism, a little bit difficult than us because we are very fast and then because the agenda change every 10 minutes, maybe every 1 hour, but it is very slow. I realized maybe I can rather build about the comparing the Western and the East to both of side journalism, you know, maybe it will be good because I had a lot of experience outside in my country. I am not working as a court reporter. Before I worked as a documentary, political issue and social issue also. I did a lot of job from back home, and I can see, for example, when they write a news, you try to use the data about it. In the Turkey, for example, if there's some refugee people killed by the racist, we never put the data because it's repeated again. But now I can understand we should be do that to show them. Look at the number. How many people died at these racist attack? You know, it can be useful. And then these people, the journalist who lives in Canada, looks like an academician. Also, they are know a lot of things, studying their work, the background, reading a book, but we have no chance to do that because we are very, you know, rich country about the issues.
Yeah, maybe we take less risks than we should because we're too comfortable in Canada, right?
Yeah, every time, you know, when I listen to radio, they are talking about the COVID. Almost 2 years, I listen to COVID stories, but maybe in the evening, they're talking about the book. I love it, you know.
Yeah, I would like to hear a little bit more Turkey and less COVID myself, to be honest. I'm getting a little tired of hearing the same thing every day when there's nothing. Yeah, there's a large world out there that we could be hearing more about. So thank you for that. James, what is your biggest hope for, like, what would be your best outcome from this film? Like thinking about when it's released. Oh, and tell us when it will be released if you know, that would be great. So if you know the release date roughly, and then what do you hope will happen, James?
We want to begin editing the film on May 16th. Forgive me, Monday, May 17th, and then complete post-production by the end of July. We had a schedule that was changed again, literally this morning when we learned what Doug Ford was going to announce. So we still hope to meet that. And the film, we're going to proudly show it at Gzowski College, we hope, and there are also organizations, including the Canadian Association of Journalists, Massey College at the University of Toronto, Huron College at Western University down in London, Ontario, and other places. We want to raise consciousness show the film, hopefully in front of live audiences, but if not, virtually. And while to my dismay, Canadian mainstream broadcasters have not to date supported the film, enterprising webcaster Highball TV, which is up and coming and makes content available to anyone around the world, is going to webcast or make the film available for streaming once we have gone through as many public screenings as we possibly can, beginning in the fall of 2021 and then continuing into early 2022, forgive me. So I would suggest the plan is to finish the film this summer. And I think that's conceivable because unless I'm wrong, I think that Canada, despite its fumbling, will actually pick up the vaccination pace, and that we're going to not get a full opening, but a little more open, and certainly we'll be able to finish the filming of the film. I'm also very, very eager to, whenever possible, and they, Arzu and Luis and Abdurrahman have busy lives with responsibilities and families, but I want them to be engaged in, it's participatory research that we are engaged in. They are helping tell the story, and it's their story. So whenever possible, I would encourage, whether it's Gzowski or anywhere else, to make it possible for the journalists who are available to come and meet the audience members. So it's kind of an old style, social action documentary making, which I'm very happy about, rather than, just having it sit there on the CBC, which is, that has its pros and cons. But the one thing it does, it really restricts you from meeting your audience. This will not, this approach. And so I think that that's very important. And I think there are opportunities in Europe, in Mexico, where Luis is from. And as Arzu knows much better than I do, the Turkish diaspora, the community of Turkish people in Canada, in the United States, in Germany, in Scandinavia, in the United Kingdom, and I think that's true of the Syrian community as well. They're going to be very, very interested in the film. So we're going to try and find as many ways as we can, virtually and actually, to get the film to audiences like that. I'm very intrigued by one of our audience members today, who is Ahmet Kalken, who I don't think I've met. Ahmet, do you want to say hello and tell us who you are? If we have another minute or so.
If I may, hello everybody. Currently I'm driving, but I do not want to miss that great conversation about the documentary that you are going to publish sooner. I am a third Navy commander. I have been assigned to NATO post in Belgium in 2014, and I was in Belgium during the July 15 co-attempt without knowing anything, and all of a sudden my assignment has been cancelled, and I have been called back to Turkey, showing any reason or any new assignment. I was still on duty, but without showing any assignment and any valid reason, they just called not only me, but also around 500 officers from Navy, Army, and Air Forces. And also we were getting some threats, open threats that we are going to be jailed for sure. And then I sit down with my family, discuss about the future, what are chances, what are risks, and then I decided to be a free person, and I want my family to be free. and I decided to stay in Belgium for a while, and then we moved to United States. It was mostly my wife's decision, maybe because of the language, and now I am living in the United States, and that's it for myself. And
what
thank you
does
so much.
what does Arzu's effort to tell the story, and I know that she appears on various platforms and conferences and stuff, is Arzu's, and I think this might help Melanie's question as well, is Arzu's message getting out? Are you aware of the efforts of journalists in exile like her to help bring tell more truth about the situation in Turkey?
I definitely agree with her, and I also appreciate her efforts as being the voice of voiceless people of Turkey. As she already mentioned, I think this is the complete freedom, being and having chance to talk and put the truth on the table of everybody. But what I recognized, or what I experienced, since I am also trying to be a voice in social media, whatever you put on the writings, it's less visible than any single visual items like documentary or short films or whatever. And I hope that her efforts, or everybody's effort, will be more visible and more effective when it's going to be visualized. The people of Turkey are not reading a lot. They don't want to read because, I don't know, it might be the habit of from the childhood, but whatever they see in a very well vision, in a very well organized and touching to senses, emotions, they that kind of films or documentaries or short films will have more effect and will be more effective.
Thanks for that. That's really interesting. And I think it actually speaks to, we have Arzu doing the hard work of both being in exile and writing and trying to continue to write. And as you said, give voice to the voiceless. But then we get this beautiful marriage of that with filmmaking, with a documentary that, as you're saying, Ahmet, can bring a visual power to somebody whose work is in the words. So we're visualizing someone who works in language. And I think that is a beautiful way of connecting the two. So it's interesting to have you say that. Thanks for joining us today. That's so great.
Actually, I should thank you for letting us in and organizing this great conversation. Thank you. I will be watching.
Okay, so thank you so much. We are going to wrap up in a minute or two. Does anyone else on this screen have a question they want to ask? Trying to see you all. There. Yeah, Angel.
Guys, thanks for doing this. This is pretty epic, amazing. I heard about this project from Rob Viscardis. I'm really curious about the different kinds of projects that will come of this. Like I wonder if there'll be like micro docs and like different kinds of, like, not just like a feature film, but like different kinds of ways for the different journalists to engage themselves with video storytelling, and what that might look like if they're interested also in becoming documentary filmmakers as well. So that's my question.
Well, one thing at a time, I'd say, as the principal filmmaker of the feature. But the other thing, do you speak Spanish, Angel?
I've taken intermediate Spanish because of archaeology and Mayan archaeology, but I'm not like fluent, but I have, basic.
Well, all three of these wonderful storytellers, Arzu and Luis and Abdurrahman. Luis is actually doing a podcast in Spanish
Oh, that's fabulous.
on various topics. That is quite wonderful, but he's doing it in Spanish, and good for him. I'm open to certainly, if Arzu has thoughts and the others have thoughts about how we might compartmentalize parts of the story. But believe me, with the what we're trying to get accomplished with the budget that we have, let's get a 52-minute film made, which we are committed to do, and then we'll see what happens next. I think the charm of a 52-minute film rather than an expansive 90-minute feature is it leaves space for discussion. It's a good length to have a live audience or a virtual audience that can talk about the film. But Arzu is does do wonderful short documentaries with her phone already, and you'll see some of her work in the film. So in that sense, we're all filmmakers on this project.
That's great. And I think just to go back to your point, James, yes, we absolutely will do a screening in Gzowski College. We'll also make sure that there is a copy available in the library at Trent University. So that is going to happen for sure. I will follow up with you, James, about making it so, but I've already spoken to our Trent Library, and Gzowski will support that. So it will be available to students for sure. And we will make sure we connect it to classrooms as well.
You have a final word, Arzu? I think we're over time now, but I think we'd all like to hear from Arzu.
Final word from you, Arzu. Thank you, James.
Final word maybe about Luis and Abdurrahman. You know, I left behind two kids. One of them just 7 months when I came here. You know, our other one is 7 years old. I also lost my memories. Every story belongs to my past. When I met them, I cannot describe you how I feel right now. When I see the Abdurrahman face especially, you know, something comes to my heart and it made me very hard. A couple of pain and a couple of thankful to meet with him and them. They're amazing people, you know. I just thinking about what their people didn't understand these kind of people. I forget my story when I watch them. Both of them really good journalists, and then they have really good heart also. And they are honored because why? When we came to this country, government support the refugee, they give you $750. You cannot do anything like that, right? And then we started to work with the insurance, something like that, without knowing any English. Abdurrahman also, all of them the same. You know, they try to keep their honor, and then they try to be survive. They try to protect their past, what they did before, and then they try to fight the right. Now we all came together, and then James also make a documentary. He is also our team right now. And we show the global, not the global crisis. We show them we are just a simple person, and then we just try to live regular life, what the others have. And we all lost our freedom and our past to support you, not to you support us, you know. I believe that they all of them never make money, you know. Now I meet a lot of refugee journalists, all of them the same story. These three of us, this story belongs to every journalist. And we cannot describe it as a country, Mexico or Syria or Turkey story. This is a journalism story, you know.
That's a great, yes, that is such a great way to finish, actually. You're right. It is, the bits I've seen of the film and what I have seen of you and Abdulrahman and Luis, to me, all three of you are beautiful human beings, but it is also a story about all journalists, and you live that through the way you express yourselves. So all we can do is thank you deeply, and thank you for taking really the courage you have to also go through a project like this, which I know is good for the things you want us all to know, but it's also challenging and personal to do a project like this. And so I'm sure there are moments that are difficult for you. And I know that James is a lovely human guiding you through it, but it's still hard. And we're really glad you're doing it. So with that, I'm going to deeply thank Arzu for joining us today, James for introducing us to the topic.
Thank you for having us.
It's our pleasure. We just, we can't speak more highly of you, really, honestly. I just think you're wonderful. You're welcome back to Peterborough and Gzowski anytime you want to come, Arzu, anytime at all. Maybe after we have vaccines would be better. That would be the only thing. Thanks, everyone. That was our last, as I said, of the season, and to come together on a Thursday on April 1st before a long weekend. I appreciate all of your time, and thanks for taking part in our Gzowski series. And I think we'll stop there. Thank you, James. Thank you, Arzu.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Melanie and Gzowski team.
Our pleasure.
Take care, everyone.